Unexpected encounter. Dr. Eliza Chen squinted at the computer screen, her eyes burning from hours of analyzing data. The clock on her desk read 2:37 a.m., but time had lost all meaning in the underground research facility. As lead scientist on Project Empathy, a groundbreaking study on human emotional responses, Eliza had grown accustomed to late nights and early mornings. She leaned back in her chair, stretching her arms above her head. The isolation of the facility, buried deep beneath the New Mexico desert, sometimes made her feel like she was on another planet. Little did she know how prophetic that feeling would soon become. A soft beep from her computer drew her attention. An anomaly in the data. She leaned forward, frowning at the strange readings. The empathy sensors were picking up something unusual, something that shouldn't be possible given the parameters of their experiment. What the hell? Eliza muttered, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she tried to isolate the source of the anomaly. The readings were growing stronger, pulsing with an otherworldly rhythm that sent chills down her spine. Suddenly, the lights in the lab flickered and died, plunging Eliza into darkness. Emergency backup power kicked in, bathing the room in an eerie red glow. The air crackled with static electricity, making the hair on her arms stand on end. Security breach in Sector 7. An automated voice announced over the intercom. All personnel evacuate immediately. Eliza's heart raced as she grabbed her tablet and headed for the exit. But before she could reach the door, a blinding white light filled the room. She shielded her eyes, feeling a strange weightlessness overcome her body. When the light faded, Eliza found herself in a vast, circular chamber unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls shimmered with an iridescent sheen, and the air hummed with energy. She blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden change in her surroundings. "Greetings, Dr. Eliza Chen," a melodic voice echoed through the chamber. "We apologize for the abrupt nature of your arrival, but time is of the essence." Eliza spun around, searching for the source of the voice. Her jaw dropped as three figures stepped out of what appeared to be solid wall. They were humanoid in shape, but their skin was a pale lavender hue, and their eyes were large, multifaceted orbs that seemed to shimmer with intelligence. Who are you?" Eliza managed to stammer, her scientific curiosity warring with her fear. "Where am I?" The tallest of the three aliens inclined its head in a gesture that might have been meant to be reassuring. "I am Zix, lead researcher of the Galactic Emotional Studies Division. These are my colleagues, Vela and Nix." The other two aliens nodded in greeting. "You are aboard our research vessel, currently in orbit around your planet's moon." Eliza's mind reeled. Aliens. She was on an alien spaceship. Part of her wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all, while another part was already cataloging every detail of her surroundings for future study. "But why me?" she asked, finding her voice at last. "Why bring me here?" Zix's multifaceted eyes seemed to twinkle with excitement. "Your work on Project Empathy has not gone unnoticed, Dr. Chen. We have been monitoring Earth's scientific advancements for some time, and your research into human emotions and relationships is of particular interest to us." Vela, the smallest of the three aliens, stepped forward. Its voice was higher-pitched, almost musical. "Our species, the Lissari, have evolved beyond the need for individual emotional bonds. We function as a collective consciousness, sharing thoughts and experiences across our entire population. While this has led to great technological and societal advancements," Nix continued, its deep voice rumbling through the chamber, "we have found ourselves lacking in certain areas. The concept of individual emotional attachments, particularly what humans call love, is fascinating to us." Eliza's scientific mind began to race with the implications. "So, you brought me here to study human emotions, to understand love." Zix nodded, a gesture that seemed oddly human. "Precisely. Your work on empathy and emotional responses makes you the ideal candidate to help us understand these complex human experiences. We believe that by studying your species' capacity for deep emotional bonds, we may unlock new potentials within our own. And if I refuse? Eliza asked, though she already knew the answer. The opportunity to study an advanced alien civilization was too tempting to pass up, no matter the circumstances. We would respect your decision and return you to Earth, Zix replied. However, we hope you will see the value in this cultural exchange. The knowledge we could share, the advancements we could make together, are beyond anything your species has yet imagined. Eliza took a deep breath, weighing her options. On one hand, she had been essentially kidnapped by aliens for their research. On the other, she was being offered the chance to expand human knowledge in ways she had never dreamed possible. "All right," she said finally, squaring her shoulders. "I'll help you with your research, but I have conditions. I want full access to your data and technology, and I want to be able to share what I learn with my colleagues back on Earth." The three Lysari exchanged glances, seeming to communicate silently. After a moment, Zix turned back to Eliza. "Your terms are acceptable, Dr. Chen. We look forward to learning from you, and we hope you will learn much from us as well." As Eliza followed her new alien research partners deeper into the ship, her mind buzzed with questions and possibilities. She had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was certain: her life, and potentially the future of human-alien relations, would never be the same. Little did Eliza know that her journey was just beginning, and that the true test of humanity's emotional capacity was yet to come. As the Earth grew smaller in the ship's viewing portal, she squared her shoulders, ready to face whatever challenges this interstellar adventure might bring. The Galactic Laboratory. Days aboard the Lysari research vessel blurred together as Eliza immersed herself in the alien scientist's world. The ship itself was a marvel of technology, with smooth organic curves that seemed to defy the laws of physics as she understood them. Every surface responded to touch, and holographic displays could be summoned with a mere thought. Zix had assigned Eliza her own quarters, a spacious room that adapted to her needs and preferences. The bed, if it could be called that, was a gently hovering platform that adjusted its firmness and temperature for optimal comfort. A wall-sized window looked out into the vastness of space, offering breathtaking views of distant stars and galaxies. But it was the research facilities that truly captivated Eliza. The Galactic Emotional Studies Lab was a vast, circular chamber filled with equipment she could scarcely comprehend. Holographic brains floated in the air, pulsing with simulated neural activity. Devices that looked like elegant sculptures turned out to be highly advanced emotion scanners, capable of detecting and analyzing the subtlest changes in mood and feeling. "This is incredible," Eliza breathed as she ran her hand over a sleek console. "Your technology is light years beyond anything we have on Earth." Vila, who had become something of a guide for Eliza, tilted its head curiously. "Yet your species has achieved so much without this level of advancement. It is one of the many paradoxes we hope to understand through our research." The first few days were filled with a battery of tests and scans. The Lysari were thorough, examining every aspect of Eliza's physiology and psychology. They were particularly fascinated by her brain's limbic system and the complex interplay of hormones and neurotransmitters that governed human emotions. "Your capacity for feeling is remarkable," Nix commented as it studied a 3D projection of Eliza's neural activity. "The intensity and variety of your emotional responses far exceed our own." Eliza couldn't help but feel a surge of pride at the alien's words. "Emotions are a fundamental part of the human experience," she explained. "They shape our decisions, our relationships, our entire lives." As the days progressed, the nature of the experiments began to shift. The Lysari moved beyond simple scans and started presenting Eliza with increasingly complex emotional scenarios. They used a technology similar to virtual reality, but far more immersive, to recreate situations designed to evoke specific emotional responses. Eliza found herself reliving her first crush, the nervousness and excitement flooding through her as if she were 15 again. She experienced the joy of academic achievement, the thrill of discovery, and the warm contentment of family gatherings. But the Lizari didn't shy away from negative emotions either. Eliza relived arguments with loved ones, moments of crushing disappointment, and even the grief of losing a family member. Through it all, Zix, Vela, and Nix observed with rapt attention, their multifaceted eyes gleaming with curiosity and something that Eliza was beginning to recognize as awe. Your ability to process and integrate such a wide range of emotions is fascinating, Zix remarked after a particularly intense session. In our society, we share a collective consciousness, but the depth of individual feeling you experience is unprecedented. Eliza wiped away tears that had formed during the simulation of her grandmother's funeral. It's not always easy, she admitted. Sometimes our emotions can overwhelm us, lead us to make irrational decisions. But they also drive us to create art, to explore, to connect with others in meaningful ways. The concept of art was particularly puzzling to the Lizari. They understood the technical aspects of creating visual or auditory stimuli, but the idea of expressing emotion through creative works was foreign to them. In an attempt to bridge this gap, Eliza requested access to Earth's cultural database, which the Lizari had apparently been collecting for years. She began introducing them to human art, music, and literature, explaining the emotional context behind each piece. The aliens were captivated by Vincent van Gogh's swirling night skies, the haunting melodies of Beethoven's symphonies, and the raw emotion in Shakespeare's sonnets. They listened to recordings of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches, marveling at the power of words to inspire and move people to action. This capacity for creation, for expressing inner emotional states in external forms, is truly remarkable, Vela said, its voice filled with wonder as it studied a holographic recreation of Michelangelo's David. As the days turned into weeks, Eliza found herself growing more comfortable with her alien hosts. She began to see past their otherworldly appearance and recognize the individuals beneath. Zix's passion for knowledge reminded her of her own mentors back on Earth. Vela's gentle curiosity and eagerness to learn endeared the small alien to her. Even Nix, initially intimidating with its deep voice and towering stature, showed a softer side in its careful handling of delicate equipment and thoughtful questions. But as Eliza grew closer to understanding the Lizari, she also began to see the limitations of their society. Their collective consciousness, while allowing for incredible technological advancements and societal harmony, seemed to come at the cost of individual expression and deep personal connections. One evening, as Eliza sat in her quarters gazing out at the stars, she found herself missing the simple pleasure of sharing a meal with friends or hugging a loved one. The Lizari didn't eat in the traditional sense, absorbing nutrients through their skin, and physical contact was rare among them. A chime at her door interrupted her musings. It was Vela, holding what appeared to be a glowing orb. "Dr. Chen, we have prepared a new simulation that we believe will help us understand a crucial aspect of human emotion. Are you willing to participate?" Eliza nodded, curious about what new scenario the aliens had devised. She followed Vela to the lab, where Zix and Nix were waiting. The atmosphere seemed charged with anticipation. "We have been studying the concept of human love," Zix explained as Eliza settled into the simulation chamber. "Particularly what you call romantic love. This emotion seems to be a driving force in much of your art, literature, and personal decisions. We hope to experience it, through you, in this simulation." Eliza felt a flutter of nervousness. Love was indeed a complex emotion, one that even humans didn't fully understand. How could she possibly convey its nuances to beings who had never experienced individual attachments? As the simulation began, Eliza found herself in a familiar setting, a small cafe on her university campus. Across from her sat a man she recognized with a start, David, her ex-boyfriend from graduate school. The relationship had ended years ago, when their career paths took them in different directions, but the sight of him still stirred complicated emotions. The simulation played out a reunion between them, years after their breakup. As they talked, laughed, and reminisced. Eliza felt the old feelings resurface, the warmth of companionship, the excitement of intellectual connection, the bittersweet ache of what might have been. When the simulation ended, Eliza opened her eyes to find the three Lissari staring at her with an intensity she had never seen before. Their multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer with something new. Could it be emotion? That was unexpected, Nyx rumbled, its usual composure shaken. The complexity of the emotional response, Vila added, its voice quavering slightly. The interplay of joy, sadness, longing, and hope. It's unlike anything we've experienced in our collective consciousness. Zix stepped forward, its lavender skin flushed a deeper purple. Dr. Chen, we owe you an apology. We believe that by studying human emotions, we could simply add this capacity to our own abilities. But what we've witnessed goes beyond mere chemical reactions or neural pathways. There is a depth to human feeling that we are only beginning to comprehend. Eliza smiled, touched by the alien's earnest desire to understand. Love, in all its forms, is central to the human experience, she explained. It can be messy, painful, and irrational, but it's also what gives our lives meaning. It drives us to form connections, to create families, to build societies. As she spoke, Eliza realized that her time aboard the Lissari ship had given her a new perspective on her own humanity. In trying to explain emotions to beings who had never experienced them, she had gained a deeper appreciation for the richness of human feeling. The Lissari listened intently, their usual scientific detachment replaced by something that looked almost like longing. For the first time, Eliza wondered if their quest to understand human emotions went beyond mere academic curiosity. Perhaps in their own way, the Lissari were searching for something they had lost in their evolution towards collective consciousness, the ability to form deep personal connections. As the session ended and Eliza prepared to return to her quarters, she couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. The line between researcher and subject had blurred, and she found herself as curious about the Lissari as they were about her. Little did she know that this experiment in love would set in motion a chain of events that would challenge everything both humans and Lissari thought they knew about emotions, relationships, and the very nature of consciousness itself. Cultural exchange. As the weeks aboard the Lissari research vessel stretched into months, Eliza found herself becoming more than just a subject of study. She was now an active participant in an unprecedented cultural exchange, bridging the gap between two vastly different species. The Lissari, inspired by their experiences with human emotions, began to experiment with more individualized forms of interaction. They created avatar bodies that could experience physical sensations, allowing them to participate in human activities like eating, dancing, and even simple touches like handshakes or hugs. Eliza watched with fascination as Zix took its first bite of replicated Earth food, a simple apple. The alien's multifaceted eyes widened in surprise at the burst of flavor. "This sensation, it's extraordinary," Zix exclaimed, examining the fruit with newfound wonder. "The interplay of sweetness and tartness, the texture. I had no idea that sustenance could be so pleasurable." Eliza couldn't help but smile. Food is more than just fuel for us. It's a social experience, a way to connect with others and celebrate our cultures. Inspired by this revelation, Eliza began organizing regular cultural dinners in her quarters. She used the ship's replication technology to recreate dishes from various Earth cuisines, teaching the Lissari about the emotional and cultural significance behind each meal. During one such dinner, as they sampled spicy Indian curry, Vela made an observation that struck Eliza deeply. "It seems that humans have found ways to infuse emotion into every aspect of your lives." The small alien mused, its avatar's face contorted in a mix of pleasure and surprise at the tingling sensation of spice. "Your food, your art, your social customs, everything is layered with feeling and meaning." Nyx, who had been quietly contemplating a piece of naan bread, added, Perhaps this is why your species has achieved so much despite your technological limitations. Your emotions drive you to create, to explore, to connect in ways we had not considered possible. These conversations often stretched late into the ship's artificial night cycle, touching on topics ranging from human philosophy and religion to the intricacies of Lissari collective consciousness. Eliza found herself constantly amazed by the depth of the aliens' curiosity and their capacity for understanding complex human concepts. In return, the Lissari began sharing more about their own civilization. They showed Eliza holographic representations of their homeworld, a beautiful planet with twin moons and sweeping purple landscapes. She learned about their history, their system of governance, a type of technocracy guided by the collective will, and their approach to scientific advancement. One day, Zix invited Eliza to experience a simplified version of the Lissari collective consciousness. With some trepidation, she agreed. The experience was unlike anything she had ever known. A vast network of thoughts and memories, all interconnected and accessible. It was overwhelming at first, but as she adjusted, Eliza began to understand the beauty and efficiency of their system. This is how you make decisions, how you govern your entire civilization, she asked in awe after the experience. Zix nodded, its avatar mirroring the human gesture. Every Lissari is connected to the collective. We share knowledge instantly, make decisions based on the wisdom of our entire species. It has allowed us to advance rapidly and avoid many of the conflicts that have plagued other civilizations. But what about individual thoughts? Personal desires? Eliza couldn't help but ask. There was a pause before Zix responded, its multifaceted eyes shimmering with an emotion Eliza couldn't quite place. Until our encounters with humans, we had not considered the value of individuality. Our collective consciousness has served us well. But now we are beginning to wonder what we might be missing. This admission marked a turning point in their research. The Lissari began to experiment with more individualized forms of consciousness, creating isolated neural networks that could experience emotions and make decisions independently. Eliza worked closely with them on this project, drawing on her knowledge of human psychology to help design scenarios that would challenge these new individual Lissari consciousnesses. They created simulations of human social interactions, ethical dilemmas, and even romantic encounters. The results were fascinating. The individualized Lissari consciousnesses began to develop distinct personalities, preferences, and even the capacity for disagreement, something unheard of in their collective society. One particularly memorable moment came during a simulation of a human debate. Two Lissari consciousnesses, inhabiting avatar bodies, engaged in a heated discussion about the merits of individual achievement versus collective good. Eliza watched in amazement as they gestured passionately, their voices rising and falling with emotion. Remarkable, Nix murmured, observing the debate alongside Eliza. They're experiencing something akin to human anger, frustration, and yet there's also a clear intellectual engagement. This level of individual expression, it's unprecedented in our society. As the cultural exchange deepened, Eliza found herself growing increasingly attached to her alien hosts. She began to see them not just as research partners, but as friends. The thought of eventually returning to Earth, while still present, became tinged with a sense of bittersweetness. One evening, as Eliza sat in the ship's observation deck gazing out at the stars, Vela joined her. The small alien's avatar sat down beside her, mimicking her posture. Dr. Chen. Eliza, Vela began, using her first name as it had recently learned was a sign of friendship among humans. Our time together has changed us in ways we could not have anticipated. We find ourselves feeling things as individuals, not just as part of the collective. Eliza turned to look at Vela, surprised by the vulnerability in its voice. What kind of things are you feeling? Vela's avatar face scrunched up in concentration, trying to find the right words. Attachment, curiosity that goes beyond scientific inquiry, a desire for your approval and companionship. Are these Are these what humans call emotions? Eliza felt a lump form in her throat. Yes, Vela. I think you're experiencing emotions. Real, individual emotions. It's overwhelming, Vela admitted. Wonderful and terrifying at the same time. Is this how humans feel all the time? Eliza laughed softly. Pretty much, yes. Welcome to the emotional roller coaster of being an individual. As they sat together, watching distant galaxies swirl in the vastness of space, Eliza realized that this mission had become far more than a simple research project. They were on the cusp of something monumental, a transformation that could reshape both human and Lissari societies. Little did they know that their newfound emotional connections would soon be put to the test, as an unforeseen crisis loomed on the horizon, one that would challenge everything they had learned about each other and themselves. Crisis and cooperation. The alarm blared through the ship, its urgent tone cutting through the usual hum of machinery. Eliza jolted awake, momentarily disoriented by the flashing red lights that had replaced the soft ambient glow of her quarters. Warning: unknown energy signature detected. All personnel report to emergency stations. An automated voice announced, its calm delivery at odds with the urgency of the situation. Eliza quickly dressed and rushed to the main research lab, where she found Zix, Vela, and Nix already gathered around a holographic display of the ship and its surroundings. What's happening? She asked, trying to make sense of the swirling patterns of energy displayed in the hologram. Zix's multifaceted eyes were darting rapidly, analyzing the data streams. We've encountered an anomaly, a tear in the fabric of space-time. It's unlike anything we've ever seen before. Eliza peered at the display, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her concern. The anomaly appeared as a pulsing, spiral-shaped distortion, its edges crackling with energy. Is it dangerous? She asked, noticing how the ship's systems seemed to fluctuate as they neared the phenomenon. Nix nodded gravely. Extremely. The energy output is immense, and it's growing. If we don't find a way to contain or neutralize it, it could tear this entire sector of space apart, including Earth. The gravity of the situation hit Eliza like a physical blow. Earth, her home, her family, her entire species, was in danger, and she was millions of miles away, aboard an alien ship. There has to be something we can do, she insisted, her mind racing. What about your advanced technology? Surely you have some way to deal with spatial anomalies. Vela shook its head, its small form trembling slightly. Our technology is advanced, yes, but this is beyond anything we've encountered. Our standard containment procedures are failing. As if to emphasize the point, the ship shuddered violently, nearly knocking them off their feet. The lights flickered, and several holographic displays winked out of existence. Primary power systems failing, the automated voice announced. Switching to auxiliary power. Zix turned to Eliza, its usually calm demeanor showing cracks of worry. Dr. Chen, we need your help. Your species has a unique way of approaching problems, of thinking outside established parameters. Perhaps a human perspective is what we need to solve this crisis. Eliza felt a surge of determination. This was humanity's chance to prove its worth on a cosmic scale. Okay, she said, taking a deep breath. Let's approach this systematically. What do we know about the anomaly? For the next few hours, Eliza and the Lissari scientists worked feverishly, analyzing data and proposing theories. They discovered that the anomaly was not a natural phenomenon, but the result of an ancient alien experiment gone wrong. A failed attempt to create a stable wormhole. The energy patterns, Eliza mused, studying the readouts. They're oscillating in a way that reminds me of sound waves. What if we tried to cancel out the anomaly's energy, the same way noise-canceling headphones work? The Lissari exchanged glances, their multifaceted eyes shimmering with renewed hope. It's an intriguing idea, Zix said. We could modify our shield generators to emit a counter-frequency. As they worked to implement Eliza's idea, the ship continued to be battered by waves of energy from the anomaly. Systems failed one by one, and the Lissari were forced to disconnect from their collective consciousness to conserve power. Eliza watched with a mix of concern and fascination as her alien friends struggled with their newfound isolation. Without the constant support of the collective, they seemed more vulnerable, more human. "How are you holding up?" she asked Vela, who was working furiously at a console, its small hands shaking slightly. Vela looked up, its eyes wide with an emotion Eliza recognized as fear. "It's disorienting. I've never been truly alone in my thoughts before. Is this how you humans feel all the time?" Eliza placed a comforting hand on Vela's shoulder, an act of physical reassurance she had learned the Lissari now appreciated. "It can be scary, yes, but it's also what drives us to connect with others, to form bonds. You're not alone, Vela. We're in this together." The small alien seemed to draw strength from her words, straightening its posture and returning to work with renewed determination. As hours stretched into days, the team worked tirelessly, making adjustments to their plan as new problems arose. The Lissari marveled at Eliza's ability to think creatively under pressure, while she in turn was impressed by their vast knowledge and technological skill. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of trial and error, they were ready to test their solution. The plan was risky. They would need to get dangerously close to the anomaly to deploy their modified shields. As Nyx piloted the ship towards the swirling vortex of energy, Eliza felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. This was the kind of moment she had dreamed of as a young scientist, the chance to save the world, to make a difference on a cosmic scale. "Shields at maximum power," Zix announced, its voice tense. "Initiating counter-frequency now." The ship shuddered as waves of energy pulsed from its shields, meeting the chaotic swirls of the anomaly head-on. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the edges of the vortex began to stabilize. "It's working," Vela exclaimed, its eyes fixed on the redouts. "The anomaly is shrinking." Eliza held her breath, watching as the swirling mass of energy grew smaller and smaller. With a final, anticlimactic flicker, the anomaly winked out of existence, leaving behind nothing but empty space. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge. Then, as the reality of their success sank in, a cheer went up. Eliza found herself engulfed in a group hug, the Lissari's avatar bodies solid and warm against her. As they broke apart, Eliza saw something she had never witnessed before: tears in the Lissari's multifaceted eyes. They were experiencing joy, relief, and triumph as individuals, not just as part of a collective. "We did it," Zix said, its voice thick with emotion. "Thanks to you, Eliza. Your human creativity, your ability to think beyond established parameters, it saved us all." Eliza felt a swell of pride, not just for herself but for all of humanity. "It was a team effort," she insisted. "We couldn't have done it without your knowledge and technology." As the adrenaline of the moment faded, Eliza realized that something fundamental had changed. The Lissari had experienced individual emotions, had worked together as a team rather than a collective. And they had succeeded not in spite of this, but because of it. Nyx, who had been quiet for a while, finally spoke. "This experience has shown us something crucial about both our species. The Lissari's collective knowledge, combined with humanity's individual creativity and emotional drive. Together, we are capable of things neither of us could achieve alone." As Eliza looked around at her alien friends, she knew that this crisis had forged a bond between their species that went beyond scientific curiosity. They had faced death together, had combined their strengths to overcome an impossible challenge. The implications of this realization were staggering. What could humanity and the Lissari achieve if they continued to work together? How might both their societies evolve and grow? As the ship set a course back to Earth, Eliza knew that the real journey, the journey of discovery, cooperation, and mutual understanding between humans and Lissari, was only just beginning. Revelations and return. The journey back to Earth was filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. As the blue marble of humanity's home grew larger in the ship's viewports, Eliza felt a complex swirl of emotions. Joy at the thought of returning home, pride in what they had accomplished, and a touch of sadness at the thought of leaving her Lissari friends. The Lissari, for their part, were experiencing a range of new individual emotions. Their time disconnected from the collective consciousness during the crisis had sparked a transformation. Zix, Vela, and Nix had developed distinct personalities, preferences, and even disagreements, a concept previously foreign to their species. I find myself anxious about reconnecting with the collective, Zix confided in Eliza as they stood together in the observation deck, watching Earth grow closer. We have changed so much. How will our experiences integrate with the whole? Eliza placed a comforting hand on Zix's arm, a gesture that had become natural over their months together. Change can be scary, she admitted, but it's also an opportunity for growth. Your experiences, your newfound understanding of individuality, these could be invaluable to your entire species. As they entered Earth's orbit, a new challenge presented itself. How would humanity react to the presence of an advanced alien species? The potential for panic or hostility was high, despite the Lissari's peaceful intentions. Eliza found herself in the role of diplomat, working with both the Lissari and Earth's governments to facilitate first contact. She spent hours in video conferences with world leaders, scientific institutions, and media outlets, explaining the Lissari's mission and the incredible advancements that could come from cooperation between their species. The Lissari have technology beyond our wildest dreams, she explained to a panel of wide-eyed UN representatives. But more than that, they have a perspective on consciousness and collective intelligence that could revolutionize our understanding of the mind. And in return, we have something just as valuable to offer them: our individual creativity, our emotional depth, our unique way of approaching problems. The day of the official first contact arrived. A location had been chosen, a field outside of Geneva, neutral ground that symbolized international cooperation. As the Lissari ship descended through the atmosphere, a hush fell over the gathered crowd of dignitaries, scientists, and media personnel. Eliza stood at the forefront, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. As the ship's ramp lowered, she saw Zix, Vela, and Nix emerge, their avatar bodies designed to be less alarming to human sensibilities while still maintaining their alien nature. There was a collective gasp from the crowd as the Lissari came into full view. Eliza stepped forward, bridging the gap between the two species. On behalf of humanity, she said, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent field, I welcome our friends from the stars. We have much to learn from each other, and together, we can achieve wonders beyond imagination. Zix stepped forward, its multifaceted eyes scanning the crowd before settling on Eliza with a warmth that was visible even to those unfamiliar with Lissari expressions. Greetings, people of Earth. Zix's voice resonated across the field, translated in real time for the audience. We come in peace and in the spirit of mutual discovery. Our encounter with Dr. Chen has shown us the incredible potential that lies in the union of our two species' strengths. We offer our knowledge and technology, and in return, we humbly ask to learn from your rich emotional and cultural heritage. The next few hours were a whirlwind of introductions, explanations, and demonstrations. The Lissari showed off some of their advanced technology, causing gasps of awe from the assembled scientists. Eliza found herself constantly translating not just words, but concepts and cultural nuances between the two species. As the day wore on, Eliza noticed a change in the humans' reactions. Initial fear and suspicion gave way to curiosity and excitement. Scientists eagerly discussed potential collaborations. Politicians saw opportunities for advancing human knowledge and capabilities, and even the media began to paint a picture of a bright, cooperative future. However, not everyone was convinced. As Eliza was explaining some of the finer points of Lissari collective consciousness to a group of neuroscientists, she overheard a heated argument nearby. "How can we trust them?" a man in a military uniform was saying. "For all we know, this could be the first step in an invasion. We should be focusing on defense, not throwing our doors open to aliens." Eliza excused herself from the neuroscientists and approached the group. "Excuse me," she said, drawing their attention. "I understand your concerns, but I've spent months with the Lissari. They're not a threat to us. In fact, they're facing their own challenges and hope to learn from us as much as we'll learn from them." The military man scoffed. "And we're just supposed to take your word for it. How do we know you haven't been influenced by them somehow?" Vela, who had been quietly observing nearby, stepped forward. Its small stature and gentle demeanor seemed to surprise the skeptical group. "Your caution is understandable," Vela said, its voice soft but clear. "In our own history, we too faced moments of uncertainty when encountering new species, but we have learned that diversity of thought, of experience, of emotion, is the key to growth and innovation. We do not seek to change you, but to learn from you, and perhaps, in the process, to help both our species evolve." The sincerity in Vela's words seemed to give the skeptics pause. Eliza watched as the tension in the group visibly eased, replaced by thoughtful consideration. As the day drew to a close, world leaders convened to discuss the path forward. It was decided that a joint human Lissari research initiative would be established, with teams working together on everything from advancing medical technology to exploring the depths of space. Eliza found herself appointed as the chief liaison between humans and Lissari, a role she accepted with a mix of excitement and trepidation. As she stood with Zix, Vela, and Nyx, watching the sun set on this historic day, she felt the weight of the future settling on her shoulders. "What happens now?" she asked her alien friends. Nyx, who had been quiet for much of the day, spoke up. "Now we embark on the greatest experiment either of our species has ever undertaken. We will learn to balance individuality with collective knowledge, emotion with logic, diversity with unity." Zix nodded in agreement. "It will not be easy. There will be misunderstandings, conflicts, and challenges we cannot yet foresee, but the potential benefits, for both our species, are immeasurable." Vela reached out and took Eliza's hand, a gesture it had learned from her. "And we will face it together, as friends and as partners in discovery." As darkness fell and the stars began to twinkle overhead, Eliza looked up at the vast expanse of the universe. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, from a curious scientist studying human emotions to a bridge between two vastly different species. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But as she stood there, surrounded by her human colleagues and her Lissari friends, Eliza felt a surge of hope. Together, they had already achieved the impossible. They had overcome a cosmic threat, bridged the gap between collectivism and individuality, and opened the door to a new era of interstellar cooperation. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Eliza knew that the unique combination of human emotion and creativity with Lissari technology and collective wisdom would be more than equal to the task. As she had learned during her time with the Lissari, it was often in the space between different perspectives that the most profound discoveries were made. The study of human intimacy had led to something far greater, the intimate connection between two species, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, coming together to explore the universe and themselves. As the first stars of evening blazed to life in the darkening sky, Eliza squeezed Vela's hand and smiled at her friends, both human and alien. "Well," she said, her voice filled with determination and hope, "shall we begin?" And with that, a new chapter in the history of both species began, one that would redefine the very notion of humanity and push the boundaries of what was possible when two vastly different cultures came together in the spirit of mutual understanding and discovery. The universe, vast and mysterious, seemed to shimmer with possibility as Earth took its first steps into a larger cosmic community, guided by the unlikely friendship between a human scientist and a group of emotion-studying aliens. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning.